What is poppin', y'all? It's your man, Cloudboy Bales. Welcome to another episode of Wisco Sports Weekly, where today's episode, we're going to be talking about possible defensive coordinators for the Packers. Obviously, the big news was Joe Barry decided to let him go, and now we have another decision to make on who takes over that mantle. It's a big one. And you know, this one definitely, I feel like there's a lot of names that can definitely come across as replacements. They're already starting to interview some people, which is a very interesting indicator. And obviously, honestly, I don't know what they could really do. I mean, it's very possible what could happen, but anyways, I mean, there's a lot of names. I think they're going to interview a lot of people because I think LaFleur wants to get this right. But if you like what you see, comment below, subscribe with your thoughts, and let's get down to a couple of names. First off, there's a lot of names of people that I kind of was thinking about. I'm not necessarily sold on some people, but first off, there's Brandon Staley, who obviously this morning people just found out that he did have an interview with the Packers. He's looking at a lot of places right now, which would make a lot of sense, but pretty much it would make a lot of sense because, you know, I guess they do kind of have the ties, but yes, why would you want to do Brandon Staley after how bad of a coach he was? Well, the thing is, he was a defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams the year before he became the Chargers head coach. And when he was with the Rams, and that was just in 2020, he basically led that Rams defense with stars like Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald. The list goes on who was really on that team. I mean, they had an unstoppable defense, and he was their defensive coordinator. Their Rams defense single-handedly was the best defense in the league that year, and that was under Staley, which is why he became the head coach. Now, he was not that good of a head coach, and I'll honestly admit that, given that the Chargers' defense has been absolutely awful, but that's just how it's been. But you know what? Maybe it's just a lot of difference makers or something like that. You know, I don't think he's the right answer, but it's a possibility of somebody. That's definitely something I can say. Other people I'm thinking about. Martindale, Wink Martindale, who was he's older now, but he was the former Giants coordinator about a year ago. Him and Brian Daboll pretty much had a messy breakup. He has not been employed for a year now, but he is still a guy that you can definitely go after. I really think it would make sense, but you know what? I feel like, you know, knowing LaFleur, would he go for somebody that's older or would he go for somebody that's younger? That's, you know, because I don't know what LaFleur thinks in his mind, you know? This is a big hole to fill. And you know what? I don't know what they can think. Another name that obviously keeps popping up on my feed still is Jim Leonhard. Now, I do not think that they are going to go and sign Jim Leonhard. Like, it's just not going to happen. To be fair, if all the stuff that wouldn't have happened with the Badgers didn't happen, you know, I think he regrets not taking that job because he wanted to be the head coach of the Badgers. He got that point, and then they just decided that they wanted to move on from him and get Fickle instead. Leonhard, you know, he could definitely, you know, be considered for this job again. And I remember before LaFleur ended up picking Joe Barry, he actually wanted Jim Leonhard, but Jim Leonhard turned it down because he wanted to be at Wisconsin. So I don't know if LaFleur is going to think about him again, you know, give him another chance now that he is not at Wisconsin anymore. It could be a possibility. I don't know, but definitely it's any possibilities really make sense. Another guy that I really want, he's the number one guy on my list. I want Ejiro Evero. Now, he is currently under contract with the Carolina Panthers, But yes, you're thinking, Carolina Panthers? Why would we go after a guy from the Panthers? And, well, I know Evero was actually a finalist for us, but we picked Barry instead. I think we should have went with Evero. He's a lot younger. But, the Panthers, I think, are in this rebuild phase. He did not get selected as the head coach. They decided to keep the interim to be their head coach for a big contract. Evero was a defensive quality coach for the Packers back in 2016. He shared the staff with LaFleur in Los Angeles in 2017. They already have those ties. He was the safeties coach, where LaFleur was the offensive coordinator. But, Evero, has respect for LaFleur. And honestly, I could see him leaving the Panthers for the Packers. It's definitely a possibility. Do I think it will happen? I don't know. But this is the person I would personally want out of everyone. So that's that. Other names that I'm trying to think of. Well, obviously, I want a guy that can really play great defense here. But there's really not many good names. But one name that could definitely shock a lot of people is Mike Vrabel. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Mike Vrabel was LaFleur. That was LaFleur's second in command. LaFleur was the offensive coordinator his very first year with Mike Vrabel, when Mike Vrabel was the head coach of the Titans the very first year. Well, obviously, the Titans had a very successful offense. Moving forward, they decided to move on from LaFleur and look at LaFleur now with the Packers being one of the most respected head coaches in the league. Pretty much, you got to go after someone from his resume. You could also go after Shane Bowen, who is the Tennessee Titans defensive coordinator. Tennessee was really good. I mean, they were 10th points in takeaways. They were 10th in points allowed, 28th in takeaways. Their defensive rush was literally first per snap. I know they were 22nd in dropbacks, which is what their weakness was. 17th on opponent third down conversion percentage. You could go after him. He's not a bad idea either. I feel like he could be a backup plan. But Mike Vrabel, it would be very realistic to see them reunite. Now, I know it would be, Vrabel working for LaFleur, but I feel like Vrabel is good enough to be a head coach. It's just there aren't really many spots available. So Vrabel, if he wants a big name position, he could definitely see the Packers as that position. All right, next up, I'm thinking of some other names, but one name that kept popping up in my feed was Al Harris. Out of all people, Al Harris. And I'm like, the former Packer Al Harris? Yeah. I mean, he was their defensive backs coach. And look for the Dallas Cowboys. And keep in mind, look at Dallas this season. Look at Dallas this season. Deron Bland was named a first-team All-Pro because they had the most pick sixes by any person this season. Since he became the defensive backs for the Cowboys back in 2020, they've ranked tied for second in the NFL with 69 interceptions. That's just funny, it's that number. And, when you're a Packer, Al Harris being a Packer for what he is, he's a fantastic corner. Everybody knows that. All pros, 2 Pro Bowls. He was a stud. I love to see this man come back to Green Bay and be the coach because he could really be that guy. I really believe it. Do I think he is? I don't know because he doesn't have that much experience, but it's possible. It's very possible. And then some other names of people that I'm hearing of. Leslie Frazier, who used to be the Minnesota Vikings head coach with the Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator. He took some time off from coaching. And then he was doing some stuff with the Bills. He obviously, he is very old, so he could, it's not really the most ideal move. Steve Belichick could also be heading to Green Bay as well. He's the linebackers coach. Mike Caldwell, Jack Del Rio, Mike Zimmer. Those are some other names that I'm thinking of, but I don't think are very as likely. But you know what? The Packers, on the other hand, I think they are really trying to find some people. Right now, they are in the current process of interviewing some people, which is really interesting because I did not think that would be the case. The Packers, I mean, they're looking at a bunch of people from the Cowboys right now. Trying to look at, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I know the names of these people. Okay, the Cowboys coaches that they're interviewing right now, I did not see those guys on my personal list, but Aiden Dury, the defensive line coach, and the Bills linebacker coach, Bobby Babich. Which makes sense. Those are some definite good ideas. I don't think those are the guys that I would want, but those are some definite good ideas. And also, the Broncos defensive backs coach, Christian Parker, is another name that I heard they were looking after. I kind of want them to go after bigger names. These smaller names just don't seem really like the things that I want to do for the Packers, but you know what? This is LaFleur's choice. And you know what? If anything is better than Joe Barry, at this point, just take it. You know, there's a lot of potential for a lot of different people. And you know what? There's a big possibility that Bill Belichick could come to Green Bay. He knows of our history. I mean, he could be our defensive coordinator. I know it's very unlikely, but it's a possibility. It was a meme going around. But lots of names to go after. Those are just some of the names I was hearing, but obviously, I don't have an opinion on who should be the defensive coordinator because that is a huge job to have. Anyways, so if you like what you see, subscribe below, comment with your thoughts, and as always, we will see you next time. Go Pack Go.